They had 10 inches of snow, snow.
Hey, Misty.
Snowshoe.
Hey, Mitzi.
They had 10 inches of snow packed and snow.
Me.
Oh, they said Pocahontas was in winter storm watch and all that. Yeah.
They're probably up there. Skiing and carry on.
They stopped the skiing early because they didn't have any snacks.
I'd say they probably opened it back up.
Not like that.
Now, who was that thing, Mitzi? That's Mitzi. Mitzi Cook. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But Felix.
All right. Can you see that okay, Mitzi?
Yes.
Awesome.
Brother still lives next door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his mother-in-law.
That thing moving.
Which is staying.
Good. Volume's good too. Hey, Carolyn. Is the volume good then too, I guess? There we go.
Your volume is, I haven't heard anything
Right.
else.
Y'all, hey, say something, see if how she can hear it or not.
Hey, Mitzi.
Hey, Misty.
I hear all of you.
Good.
Good.
All right.
That's it.
The volume been good on that, or I need to play through this. We'll do it anyway, that way we can. You'll be right.
You want to cut it on?
I'll look at it, I'll see if it's on. Maybe not.
It's not on, I cut it off.
No, I wanna do. What the Oregon? I think about it all the time now. It's a nice little place to put the TV.
You ought to see the one I had down there. It's about 3 times as big as that one.
Massive.
They don't have anything big there as either, just setting our question does.
Right. Okay,
Put it in the paper.
well, this is the closest we've been on time, Raj. Being on time.
Yeah, just like. What
What do you think? We got it. We started at 6:30 on the board meeting, and got that done.
Yeah.
Yeah, just well. Put this down here. There we go. Oh, can't do that. There we go. You put it down here where I can get to it. And click.
I get tired of being older.
All right.
So many things I can't do.
Well, I thought I heard Neil out there. I guess I didn't. No, he's coming. He said he was coming. Let me make sure.
I was.
We'll go ahead and start.
Coat and I just knew you'd all laugh at me.
Oh, not tonight.
No, definitely not tomorrow.
I was telling Roger. It was the windy at the house day, it's my neighbor's trash can, but today was trash day.
That's it.
Yeah, today was also
Today, surprise. We have several in our community that. As a trash stick, that we have an option of cleaning it out and
Yeah,
picking it up.
All right.
I don't see any rolling around, but it wouldn't surprise me if I haven't.
they had a thing on TV, this principal, I forget where it was, went out to the dumpster there at the school, I guess, to put trash in. And he opened up the lid and this big bear jumped out.
Like a real bear?
I saw.
Oh,
that.
my gosh, I gotta find that and look at it.
Well, here's what we've been doing since we come back from the beach. Trapping mice.
Oh,
We've had mice all over.
I had to clean out all the kitchen drawers today.
So you use the wire traps, like the regular wire ones? Or do you use like the new fancy ones that are like black and it's little squeeze them down and you put?
Yeah,
Yeah. You know, there's some really medieval mouse traps out there that you get, like they can, they're like the mouse doesn't know it's even being killed, you know, kind of thing.
we caught two the first night.
I want to put the bucket where they climb up and whoop, right under the bucket.
And they've been all over the house.
Yeah,
The last time we went to the beach, it was bird. Got in the house, pooped all over the house and died. You're just kind of months.
you know what they say, stay home.
right. No,
It says
Well-
leave for good.
So we had,
yeah, right.
so we had a rabbit in the front yard today. He's eating on the flowers.
Yeah,
Well, this
Yeah.
couple days ago. So I stepped out the front door and the neighbor's out there, so she and I got to talking a little bit. She said, "You see that rabbit? Where? Oh, right there, far near that trash can." So I said, and she said, "He's been eating on my flowers. I wish you'd get out of here." I said, "Well, let me see if I can find my pellet gun real fast." So I go in, I cocked the pellet gun, I put the pellet in, walked out and he was still there. So I zeroed in on his head and I said, "No, I don't want to kill that thing." So I pulled it back to his back end and pulled the trigger.
popped him.
That rabbit jumped higher than he's bald and around the house he went to get it. Haven't seen him since.
Yeah, there you go. You did well. That's good.
But you, it,
Well done.
I hope he's not dead.
Does anybody like squirrel? The next thing's gonna be the squirrels.
Oh. Hundreds.
I have my flower bed all to pieces. I had
Oh,
a Mandela that Jean gave me last year for my birthday.
right.
And I kept it over the winter and I brought it up and set it on the front porch. When I, day before yesterday, a squirrel had got in it and just dumped all the dirt out of it.
I just didn't know stuff like that occurred. I didn't know that they
they look for everything. Mike and I planted 64 tulip and hyacinth.
That's true.
And the squirrels. And we plant them like 9 inches deep. And they're out there just digging and you can, yeah.
reminds me of a little squirrel in that movie, a little animated movie, Ice Age. I don't know if you've ever seen it. They had this one squirrel, like prehistoric squirrel, and that dude had this one acorn he found.
Yeah,
Ice Age is coming. He's taking that thing. He
he
guarded that thing with his life through the whole movie, man.
Dick is full of, shells
Yeah,
Oh,
where they dig them up.
well, I can see them out up there. They go after walnuts, but it's either Bob or the squirrels up there trying to get walnuts. So,
They dig them
Yeah.
up on the deck and set the sun, need them, leave all their mess.
man, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here because this will fit then. Tonight, we're studying "Thou shalt not kill." Okay, so there we go. He did a good job, didn't he, on that? So we're looking at that, "Thou shalt not kill." Let's pray. Lord, I give you thanks again for this place. I give you thanks for those who come in and abide with you here. And I ask that you bless us tonight as we seek to study and learn and just become more clearly the image of you that we see in your Son. Help us to do that, will you? In his name I pray. Amen. All right, so let's see if this will go. There you go. Do not kill. That's it right there. Really short. Right? Really short. It's like, I know when I was reading that the Hebrew word for this, you can take it as murder. You can take, some will translate it kill. Do not kill, do not murder. But what we'll talk about tonight is then, what does, how does that apply? Does it mean, and how does it go with it, how we do that? So let me ask this question. So this came out of the book. The prohibition against killing appears in nearly every ancient law code. It has been the most basic of ethical and moral requirements since the beginning of civilization. Then he talks about this, the last 100 years have been the deadliest in the history of the human race. And it seems clear that humanity has utterly failed to abide by this most basic of ethical imperatives in this. So let me ask this question. When was the last time you were confronted with an act of violence, either personally or something that you saw or learned about through the media? It's every day, isn't it? We have another shooting today, right down in Atlanta,
Yeah.
right? So it's something that we're, it's just over and over. Well, let me, but here's the thing, what's your reaction? What's your response to that? When you see that, what do you think? What do you say out loud? How does it go? The violence, like say like the shooting, another shooting report, and all that, yeah. Say, what do you say?
I just feel like we've, society as a whole has lost the respect for another human being, someone that God has made. How can you pull the trigger on killing someone?
Right, and hold that thought in your mind, what you just said about something that someone has done. So keep that thought in your head as we go through that. What else?
That comes to me is that I don't think it's any worse than it has been.
We just have more people.
No, including people.
No, I mean, we have more people, so there's,
We now have more people, but we've got instant communication. News brings it in front of you from Texas, from wherever, where all these shootings are Zoom.
so do you think that there was, so that, let's say,
That's right.
like 60 years ago, that we would have the kinds of shootings that we have now, somebody walking in with a deer rifle to take somebody out?
A lull in violence after the Second World.
Oh, you think, okay,
I think the 50s and even the 60s with their rebellions were pretty smooth.
right, well, they weren't armed rebellions with riots and stuff, they were just tearing everything up and
But
stealing.
as far as regard for human life, yeah,
You think it's the same?
I think it's about the same as it's always.
Yeah.
We saw, I don't know if any of you subscribe or go to the Moss Arts at Tech,
Mm-hmm.
but they had Benjamin Britten's War Requiem last week.
Right,
And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I won't go through details. I don't like Britain. He's very contemporary and it's not my kind of music, but this was, it's the first time I've ever seen it, incredible. It is interspersed, first of all, the Mass for the Dead from the Latin Roman Catholic Missal. Starts out with the Dies Irae, the Day of Wrath, and they chant this. And then it alternates with poetry written by a guy named Owens, who was killed in the First World War, and he had written poems. And his poetry is then juxtaposed with the Mass for the Dead, and his poetry is absolutely incredibly anti-war, anti-killing, and it was superb.
and he was killed in the war.
Yeah, he was killed in the First World War.
Okay, right.
I don't know.
So,
All I'm
so
saying is-
you say like, when you hear one, you think, well, here we go again.
Yeah.
It's just, here we go.
Here we go again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every time
All right.
I hear it, it's like, oh,
Right.
Lord.
Okay,
Well, when you hear about that little 6-year-old that was just in his room playing, right, a game. In Lynchburg. I can't remember.
Yeah, I saw it when we came down, and was shot.
Yeah.
And you see, no, it was just street violence, somebody just shot to the house.
well, we'll share something about that here in a second too, because, in the book, Adam Hamilton shares a story about, he said he was leaving Tom and Marcy's house, and Tom followed him out and said, well, Tom was one of their associate pastors who did like drug recovery stuff and things like that. His daughter, 25-year-old, had been killed. Well, two guys, she'd gone to a food truck, it's in Kansas City, food truck. And so this is several years ago, because the book's a little older too. They had gone to a food truck, and a block away, two guys got into a gunfight, right? And Didn't hit each other, but one of the bullets got her and killed her. She
Yeah.
died right there in her boyfriend's arms. So talking about like this, and part of what we'll talk about in this is that, and he says, you know, he's written books that in terms of responding to things like gun stuff and abortion and euthanasia, and how how this commandment might apply, you know, and that, and maybe there's some interpretive stuff we can do with that. Because it's not an easy issue, I guess is what we say. It's, and now we'll argue about the gun control, we'll do all those things, and it's not worse, it's not better. Well, it's the same, but it's just because we see more of it, but also our technology has increased. And with the increase in technology, there's a greater capacity to do harm and violence too, on even larger scales than what we see at, say, at a shooting with a guy with an automatic pistol over here at Tech, you know what I'm saying? So there's all those things. So I think the general, though, what it's kind of, I feel it abhors me now when I see this. And I don't have to work hard to not become immune to the violence that I see every day. Because we get inundated with enough, you pretty much becomes every day. And then you become, it's not shocking anymore. It's not, you know, it's like, oh, another day and this and that. And so I just want to be on guard for that for myself. All right, so this I hadn't thought about. I'm going to slide this to the other side here. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to move Carolyn and Mitzi over here on the other side. I'm going to drag y'all across. Hold up, pick up your feet. Pick up your feet. Okay, I got you. You're there. So I had forgotten about this in terms of this. Roses, they killed somebody, right? And so let's watch this because they're going to talk about that. And I want to watch the video. Now, are you all getting the volume on the video? Mitzi, can you hear the volume on the video? Carolyn?
Isn't there a
No,
never
I
ending
don't
volume
hear it.
here?
No volume.
Oh, I know what I gotta do. Hold on. Let me pause this. I remember I had to do this last time. It's on my share screen thing. Hold on, I gotta stop this. I gotta go back for a real quick. Oh, what did I do?
Looked down at his feet in shame, remembering 4 years earlier when he killed the Egyptian taskmaster, how he lived as a fugitive in.
Boom. I gotta go back and share. I'm not sharing it correctly for them. There's a thing I have to click when it goes to share screen. Okay. Why won't that do that? Oh, it's over here. Click that. All right, so share screen. Share sound. There it is.
In Sinai for
Now,
40
how's
years
that?
because of that crime. I wonder if he felt guilty at that
Yes,
point.
we got it now.
Now, the command
Yes,
to
good.
not murder has far-reaching consequences, or not kill has far-reaching consequences, but I thought we might start by visiting once more with Rabbi Art Nemitov. Let's take a listen. So let's take a look at do not kill, which seems pretty straightforward, although do not kill is, it's not referring to animals because we're allowed to eat. It's not referring to war because war is at times commanded in Scripture. It's not referred to capital punishment because you find capital punishment in the Torah. So when it's speaking about do not kill, what is the commandment saying?
I would suggest that the English that we're using may be inappropriate or inaccurate. I would rather use do not murder.
Yeah.
Murder is prohibited. Killing is permitted under certain circumstances.
Right.
When we murder another human being, we are murdering God's image. And so we are, in fact, murdering God. And when you look at the Ten Commandments, you have 5 here and 5 here. In Jewish tradition, the first one, which is I am God, matches the sixth one, which is do not murder. And that's why they're parallel, because we are creating God's image. We have God's soul within us. And if we destroy that, it's as though we're destroying God.
Yes, good. What does that, given that most of your members are not inclined to murder someone else?
I hope not.
Yes. So what might this commandment mean for people who are not inclined to murder someone else? Is there any additional meaning, or is it simply the prohibition against this?
I think it's a statement about the value of life, that each human being is creating God's image, and that when we harm another person, it's as though we're harming God.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just about murder, but it uses that as the extreme example.
Right. Jesus, when he spoke about this, talked about how you've heard that it was said of old, you shall not murder, but then he talks about not hating, and he talks about loving your enemy and turning the other cheek, and all of these things are sort of bound up in this not doing harm, but instead practicing love towards the other. So for Jesus, the command not to murder wasn't just about not killing people. I'm not worried that any of you watching this video are tempted to kill other human beings, but I'm pretty certain that all of us have had the tendency to use words in a way that bring harm to other people. We learned as children, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. But we all know that's not true. And how easy it is for us to gossip about someone else, or to speak about somebody in a way that's not true, to pass on rumors, or today to offer harmful words by using not just our lips, but our cell phones as we're typing into social media platforms, talking on Facebook or Twitter, or even the emojis that we use are all ways of either blessing or harming other people. And I want to encourage you to think about, how are we in danger of harming other people with our words as you study this commandment? But I want to move beyond that to recognize that this commandment is not just about not killing or harming other people. Jesus flips it once more. And the positive side of this was, you shall love your neighbors, you love yourself. You shall love even your enemies. That love wasn't a warm, fuzzy feeling. It was a way of blessing and doing good to others. And in the process of doing that, we find the good and beautiful life. So I want to encourage you to take the time to ponder, what does that look like today? And I want to end by taking you to another archaeological site in Egypt, just to show you some of what you'd see there. So let's head to Egypt. So when you're in Luxor, one of the places you want to visit is the Luxor Temple by night. One of the important things to know about the city of Luxor, of course it was the ancient city of Thebes, is that it was here that the royal family would have been educated. So they would have been educated in philosophy, they would have been educated in law, in religion. All of these things they would have learned here in this city. So there's no question, if Moses was raised as a prince in Pharaoh's household, he would have come here to be educated. He would have seen these temples. Now, what you see here was built during the time of Moses. So during his lifetime, if we date Moses to the Exodus to 1290, this was built during Moses' lifetime. Inside this temple, we find portions that were built before the time of Moses. But when you come here, you get a chance to see, especially in the statues that are in the front, all of this built during the period of Ramses II. And if Ramses II is the pharaoh of the Exodus, then what you see is his, let's just call it what it is, an outsized ego. You're going to find statues of Ramses all over Egypt. These are, I mean, you know, we're talking statues of a man who was pharaoh 3,300 years ago, and yet when you come here, you find he wanted to make sure people remembered him. They knew who he was. And that stands in stark contrast to Moses, where in Scripture we read that Moses was the most humble man who lived, and Ramses II appears to be a man with an oversized ego, with an outsized ego. So as we go inside, we're going to have a chance to see what this temple looked like, and I want you just to be able to take it in. It's one of the sights that you see at night when you come to Luxor because of its beauty in the evening. So let's go inside. So we're getting ready to go into the Holy of Holies here in the temple in Luxor. So this represents the throne room of Amun-Ra. It represents the holiest place in the temple. And the same idea again carries through in the temple in Jerusalem when it was built much later. And in the tent of meeting that Moses builds, the tabernacle, the portable sanctuary. So the ideas, the way it's set up are very similar, comes and drawn from the temples like this one. So let's go inside the Holy of Holies. Let's see what it's like. From here, we go on to explore other sites here in Egypt as we continue to contemplate the significance of the Ten Commandments. Let's go.
Back to the, where is it? Oh, that's it. Where's my slide though? We don't want that one. I gotta turn that guy off. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna do
Precious body, precious blood, seen as bread and wine.
that. Under there
Here
somewhere.
the Lord prepares the feast divine.
There we go. Now, so back up, I think. We were here. All right, so one of the things Rabbi Nematov says that he thinks it's because there is discussion around whether it means to kill. Some Jewish translations use to kill, some use do not murder. And he goes back to he connected it with I am God, and he talked about if you murder someone, you kill an image of God in that, in there. So then you heard Reverend Hamilton talking about how Jesus flips some of this stuff. I don't think he flips it. I think what he does is, in my mind, I wouldn't have said flip, I would have said how he expands it. Okay, how he applies it is different there. And what were some of the things that you know that he mentioned when he was in that little discussion? How does Jesus talk about it? You have heard thou shalt not murder, but I say to you what? If you're angry, yeah, love your enemies, all that stuff. Yes.
What is it you love about an enemy?
Well, it's not a warm feeling about an enemy. That's not what we mean.
They're a person.
Yeah, consider that, but also it's more like you serve them
Yes.
in spite of the enmity, you know? This is what was one of the things he talked about this, and I don't remember, I know we studied it, but it wasn't a great point of emphasis and probably should have been. This is Genesis 9:6, whoever sheds human blood, by human his blood will be shed, for in the divine image God made human beings.
You know, I've often wondered, at the prisons, when they go to kill somebody, the person that has to pull the handle for whatnot.
All right. Yeah,
So many times I can't picture what it must take to do something
Right.
like that.
that movie, The Green Mile.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What is it?
Man, that was just a heck of a thing. So on that. We know about Cain and Abel in Genesis 4, that's the first murder that we have. Don't know what he was jealous about, but it was out of resentment. We can imagine that, bitterness. And then it comes not long after that, between 4 and then 6, where we get to the flood, into that whole time of Noah and everything. He sends a flood to cleanse the earth and start new because it's so filled with violence. And he saw how violent it was, and he said, I repent that I made human beings, okay? And that's where we had that we find in that whole series of Noah and, Lamech, and then the others through Babel and all that, we get to this point where, it's like killing the image of God is the way that the rabbi said it. Not just, I don't want to think about that real hard. So this is what he writes when he was talking about murder. This provides a theological basis for human rights in Western civilization. Harming a human being is an offense against God. To kill is to destroy God's possession and to violate someone who was created in God's image. Like we are the sheep of his pasture, that whole psalm kind of thing there. Now, let's look at Isaiah 2:4. This is what this is. God will judge between the nations and settle disputes of mighty nations. Then they will beat their swords into iron plows and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation. They will no longer learn how to make war. That's one part of it. It's another one for Isaiah. Now here's Isaiah 11:6-7, 9a. The wolf will live with the lamb, and the shepherd will lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion will feed together, and a little child will lead them. The cow and the bear will graze, their young will lie down together, and a lion will eat straw like an ox. They won't harm or destroy anywhere on my holy mountain. What as you read those, what is this? What's happening right here? What is Isaiah writing about?
Right, Jesus.
Well, maybe, but what do they say about God's desire for the world? Because it didn't happen when Jesus came.
No, I know.
Right?
Not the first.
Yeah. So what do these verses say about God's desire for the world though? What does God want for us?
Peace.
Yeah, Coke. I'd like to buy the world a Coke, right? If we all had a Coke, we would live in peace, right? But that's what it is, but it's an ideal. Right? This is God's ideal. This is utopia. Right, in that sense. It's where nothing is, it's all good. It would be like Revelation, book of Revelation stuff. When there's, there would be what it's like. Now, so look at this next statement. So there was a chapter in this chapter, he's talking about self-defense, war, and manslaughter. Talk about self-defense. So, I didn't know this, but like in the Leviticus, there are things that you have different degrees. Like say someone breaks into your house at night and you end up giving them a beating and they die. You're not liable for that. But if someone breaks into your house during the daytime, right, and you kill them, you're liable for that. It's not murder, no, because you could have done something different. Like you could have. That's just two different verses that says that. Okay, it goes that way. So there's self-defense is not something that, and also there's a line in Leviticus that says, hey, don't stand by and let somebody kill your neighbor or harm your neighbor.
Self-defense is not murder.
No. But that's what it says, like that's what we talk about killing. And the rabbi said there prohibition against killing, but only in some circumstances, right?
Yeah, it's not a good translation. If you look at Old Testament scripture, killing was common and God helped people to kill. What about David and Goliath?
Gosh, Joshua, scorched earth. Yeah.
I mean, it's full of killing.
Right.
Those
killing is a result.
Philistines.
Right. Well, there are some who will say that, that they did not understand that we still find the same God in Jesus that we find in the Old Testament. That's one of the arguments people say, like, I like the God of the New Testament over the God of the Old Testament.
Same God.
It's the same God. It's just our understanding became crystal clear, became probably as clear as it's ever going to be in Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
He fulfilled the Old Testament.
But that some people will say, like, when someone say, is that what God wanted? Was to slaughter a whole people, like commit genocide? Then we're talking about the whole world. We're talking about though, like a tribe of people. To slaughter, is that what God really wanted? That's the discussion that people will say, like, well, they didn't understand. They didn't understand what he really wanted. Okay, that's just it. And they were just doing what the world did at that time. They did what they knew. And they figured God was like them and wanted them to do what they were supposed to do. That kind of stuff. So self-defense though, and there's all like for manslaughter, it's like they have different degrees of killing that are not okay, but they're not okay, but they don't have a death penalty with it. Like you don't have, like you could, like, so if you killed, what was it, your brother, you could go to a place of asylum. Like Cain, look at the mercy that God showed Cain anyway, right? He didn't kill him. Sent him off. He had to live in fear, he had to live all this stuff like this, but God showed mercy in that. But there's like you could kill in one instance. If you killed somebody and you meant to kill them, well, it's death penalty. But if you injured them in a way that normally wouldn't kill them, but it killed them, you could be escaped to a city with us for asylum. Okay. So it's the Bible has different degrees in there. As for war, there's a thing called just war theory, where you use it to decide whether or not it's just to have this war or not. It's a Christian proposition, Judeo-Christian proposition. And so you just can't go. You have to think about it. It has to have a just purpose to go and do it. It's that serious. And so that's been used for years. Just war theory in this century, last century, was used to help decide some things. I wonder, that makes me wonder about, did they use just war theory when we went into Iraq? Weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. That's not just war theory. They didn't use it. And so looking at that, and then talking about manslaughter. But there's that whole thing, there's different degrees of it. Because we talk about capital punishment. That's beyond the scope of this. But there are people that say capital punishment is wrong. Right? And the same thing. They look at abortion the same way. They'll say it's the taking of a life. It's murder. Okay, it's not just killing, it's murder. That's what you're going to hear. What we know people say, and we got to figure it out how we're going to live with that. So anyway, it's this prohibition, this commandment is not as simple and cut and dry to say I thought of it when I was a kid. Right? We can hunt for food, we can hunt to protect ourselves, we can kill to protect ourselves. Those seem to be justifiable in God's eyes. But do you think, though, that if I kill somebody in defense of my family, that God celebrates that?
Oh, I think you would. If you
Think so?
defense of your family, yes.
Oh, I don't think you would celebrate it.
Or not celebrate it, but.
I don't think you would hold me
God-
responsible for it.
Right.
I mean, would God celebrate that? So God doesn't want violence. I mean, it's, what I'm saying, even if it's just justifiable violence, it still pains God. And even so, I thought about this as I was going through this. I thought, man, it's like we are inundated with so much violence every day now. This must have been what God was looking at, what it felt like for God to look at, like in Genesis. It's that statement. It's a sickening thing. It really is a sickening thing.
If you had love, then there wouldn't be any violence.
Well, hold that thought. The picture of the world without violence, a picture of God's ideal world, perhaps even a picture of heaven. Points to a world where no one, not even the animals, kills, but we don't live in that world yet. And so what are we supposed to eat? That's what I say. Little baby cow. All right, now.
How about a little lamb, a little?
I don't like lamb. I just want beef.
Little rabbit, I was thinking.
I just want beef. Little rabbit. That's like, yeah. If the rabbit that eats your flowers, eat the rabbit.
Next is the squirrels.
Right, got it.
She should have chosen about me.
Now, so we talked about Jesus broadened the meaning of the command, and that his words also have implications far beyond the taking. Words that have power to liberate. Because Jesus did not just talk about actions, Jesus talked about our thoughts and our intentions and the way we look and talk to one another in this. Now, here's what he says, Matthew 5:21-22. You've heard that it was said to those who lived long ago, don't commit murder, and all who commit murder will be in danger of judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with their brother or sister will be in danger of brother. Now he's speaking to the church here with their brother or sister. If they say, because it's Matthew, if they say to their brother or sister, you idiot, they will be in danger of being condemned by the governing council. If they say, you fool, they will be in danger of fiery hell. So the governing council, they fool, they'll be in danger of fiery hell. Now, those words though, like if you fool, be like calling somebody a moron. That's because it comes from, like, I think the Greek word is like, it's like almost more or more. It's M-O-R-E, but I don't know how to say the Greek part, how to put the enunciation on it.
Hey, Roger,
Yeah,
what would we say about 9/11?
what do you mean?
Who really murdered all those people? Was it the people flying the planes, or was it the people behind the plot that they come up with to fly those planes into 9/11?
Oh, not the people, like say, like, is it just the people who actually did the act or the people who did the planning too?
Yes.
I'd say they all would be. Like, for me,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you say? I think if you planned it, if you, even though you didn't implement it, if you do, you're guilty. Would they? Yeah, absolutely. To me, it would be. That's like people we plan like war criminals. I mean, that's why I say, like, they're saying, like, so the Russian soldiers are committing all these atrocities, right? Well, Putin's not on the ground doing it, but he is responsible. That kind of thing, I'd think. Well, see, that you just expanded it some more, Carolyn. So it's not just our actions, but it's the thoughts behind them and the planning part too. Okay. But look at this next thing then, this next slide. Okay. What emotion does Jesus connect with the sixth commandment, not to murder? What emotion? Anger. Anger. Well, we're not there yet, but we're coming. Anger. So it's not just because it's the damage. I think what it comes back to is, as we talk about here, and it goes with your comments about love. It's about the relationship that we're damaging. Okay, and it's what we're saying about somebody. You know, hey, teachers, we're the worst people to talk about kids. We don't say it to their faces, but I use the word moron a lot. You know?
You call them what?
I said I use the word moron a lot. I don't say it to their face, but we're talking about it. I said, oh God, they're just a moron.
Yeah, moron, yeah.
And they, you know, and it's their behavior. But this thing, and they are idiots. They're biologically, they're teenagers and they're idiocracy is the nature of the thing. But but there's degrees of that too. Some of them are heinous, and some of them are just teenage idiots, you know, like we all were. Many of
Hey,
us,
Roger.
not all of us. What?
Something I've always wondered about, and maybe you can help me understand this. What about when a person takes their own life?
He brought that up and talked about that a little bit in the book. And like, okay, so I had a kid today. I got a phone call from a counselor today that said, hey, is so-and-so in the room? And I said, no, they're in another room with the other teacher doing some small group stuff. She said, well, I just was given a report that they're having suicidal ideations, and I just want to make sure they're with an adult. Okay. The kid had just come out of hospitalization in Norfolk for taking some pills a week earlier and stuff like that. And we have this kind of stuff happening all the time at the school now. And so they, you know, that's the big thing. So what if someone takes their life? Well, here was a story, Carolyn, that was in the book he talked about. And it was another person from this guy's congregation in Kansas City. And she had a son who had come out as gay and had a few friends. But when he came out as gay, that there's the abuse and the picking at, this is a few years ago. Wasn't he? Picking at him and just bullying and stuff just was terrible. When he got his he got a new car for his 16th birthday. His parents gave him a car like many parents do. And he came out to the parking lot and his car was keyed just all over, things like that. And so he put up with it, started being counseling for depression and things like that, from the abuse. And then a couple years later took his own life. And that is a big thing because I can remember people saying that, oh, you can't go to heaven for all that stuff. And I just thought, and as a kid, I thought this absolutely doesn't make sense. I mean, it's times when it's not a sin. I don't think that's one of the killing things that we're talking about here. We're talking about killing in terms of how I treat others and my relationship as an image of God. And I just don't think that's in this commandment. I really don't at all. It's not part of this. I look at some of these kids and I think, I say like this girl, she is where she struggles. I mean, I can imagine that's really for her. That she sees that as a solution. No more pain. It's rough. And it's just not anything easy to deal with at all. And you never get over it. I know, you just never get over it.
But she didn't kill herself for anything, did she?
No,
No, just.
but she was asking about what about people who do
Yeah.
on suicide. And I just say I don't believe that's part of this commandment.
Suicide.
Yeah. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't think I do.
No.
No, I don't either.
Friend that took her life, that was, struggled for years with depression. And it got
Disease.
all of the treatments and everything, and, his family and stuff, they just like, what I said, the disease.
Yeah.
It's a disease.
It was not him.
That's right.
And you look back now at all the treatments we have now, and it's like, oh my gosh, it would be a different solution. now.
Maybe.
Well, possibly, but,
Yeah.
but it's,
Yeah.
it's not.
No, that's a great question. And that's one of the discussions he had. He didn't have that discussion in the book, but he said that's in one of his other things that he's written on, where he had we talked, well, what about euthanasia? With killing older adults, just sending them on their way. When it's before they die naturally, we ease them on out, that kind of thing. Or like assisted suicide. Someone has ALS. They're in the last stage of what do we do with something like that? Assisted suicide.
Pain.
Huh?
Intractable
pain.
Yeah.
It's that those belong to the grace of God, and that's something we're going to talk about here in just a second. So don't let me forget. We got to come back to that in a second. That sense. So it's not just about killing others, but harming them, insulting them, or hurting them. That he lumped it into that same commandment, right? So have you ever seen anger destroy a relationship? Yeah. And I think that's a rhetorical question that he writes there. I think it's a rhetorical question. We all have, and it's but I'll tell you, it's I make that a goal not to let anger just, as I've had some where I felt like I was angry enough that I was just going to set a torch to the relationship with some people that were friends, and and even family members, and nobody in this room, but I make it a point to say it's like a point of honor, like I will not let my feelings destroy the relationship, that the relationship is more important. If it's something that I really value, like do I value the friendship more than my, this because of this one thing that makes me angry or whatever. I mean, it's important. It's something to pay attention to. All right. But what about praying for your enemies and doing good to those who do bad things to you, right? Now that's hard.
Difficult.
Hard. I like that, I'm glad it says, and pray for those, because I think that sometimes that's all I can do.
So would you pray for a change in your enemy? Is that what you would do?
No, I would do it, I would say, help me to see them in a different way, because I can't, that's where the control is. That's where I can do it. I would say it like, it's not praying for them to see it my way or whatever, but it's just. If I was gonna pray, when I have done this, what it doesn't do, it doesn't change them, but it changes me. It gives me a more ability to be more open, you know, and not be as angry, maybe, to see that it is this. Especially if you start asking for good things, you know, because God knows whether you mean it or not. And even if, you know, sometimes we gotta fake it till we make it, but, you know, that part about acting as children of your Father who is in heaven, who makes the sun rise on both the evil and the good, who makes the rain both on the righteous and the unrighteous. I mean, we're all in this together. And that's one thing I don't think we believe or see at all in our time. And then there's so much my way or the highway and all this that the more I see that, the more it makes me want to be the opposite of that. So for me, this seeing like even the violence, it makes me want to be less violent. And you know, again, your words matter, Jesus says. Your thoughts matter, Jesus said. And so the things I think about in my classroom, you know, the struggle I have is like, I sat there with this kid today, man. She's so disrespectful, just insolent, disrespectful. I when I was down there talking to principal, she said, oh, she's hideous. Principals are done with her. The kids under contract to get back in school. Hey, listen, the words I would describe are like, she's a miserable person to be around. She just does nothing but seek to destroy and tear down the classroom. Does nothing you ask her to do. Just looks at you and just laughs and just keeps on. So I just write her up. But the thing is that then I had to make myself, when she was throwing her whatever at me, I had to decide, like, you got to suck it up and you got to go over there. You got to offer to help and you got to sit down here with her. And no matter what she does in terms of like whether she's looking off or whatever, you got to go through the motions to help her. So I started about halfway through the page. She goes, okay, well, what about this one? Okay. And guess what? She didn't change. She was still insolent and disrespectful and all that, but she's got to pass. I know she needs to pass because she's a kid that definitely would quit. And you know what I'm saying? And then here's the way I think of it. Then we're just paying for somebody the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? And that's what I think about what we do. Some of it. You know, you want to give them a chance because if not, you're giving them money the rest of the life.
Do you know anything about?
Oh, I do.
Your background?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. And her sister's the same way. It doesn't matter. But anyway, but her sister's more pleasant to be around. So I think our words matter and all that stuff, right? What we think about, the thoughts that we have. But I can't think about her as being this hideous little creature that I have to confront every day. I have to think about her as, okay, she's in my charge. She's somebody I'm supposed to be here to try to help. You know what I'm saying? I have to change my thinking to say like, okay, and listen, I will tell you that word and pray for her. I do. But I pray for her that she doesn't screw up her life anymore. But what I pray for me is that, man, just give me the strength to do what I need to do here with her. Okay, and it just most days it's like whatever, and I just go on to the other 21 kids. You know, it's what you got. You know, pick and choose and do that. But I cannot. She will, because people know, don't they? Don't you? Haven't you ever sensed when somebody was being disingenuous and not real with you? And they were saying one thing and they, you know, in their heads that there was something else, their hearts was something else there. Well, those kids know, you know, you can't fake it with them. And so when he says that about not hurting our enemies, I think it means it. That's why he says, if a soldier says to you, carry this pack, Don't just go 1 mile, go 2. Right? That's also self-preservation. All right, and but that's the part about love now. Love is not what I feel good about that kid, but the love is where I said, in spite of how I feel, I go and I try to help and let's make sure that I do my best to get them what they, a little bit of something that they can do, because it's just got to pass. Because if not, I'll have her next year. No, no, there's enough people to spread out, but we got enough people to spread it out. But that's what love is. It's not feeling good, but it's about us being the people that God calls us to be in spite of how we feel. We don't let our emotions get in the way. Right? We kill people we are capable of killing people all the time. It's just not physically. But we kill the relationship, we cut it off, we sever the tie. And that's just not, I just don't think that's what Jesus is saying in this. He's saying to do something, to do the opposite.
So he's saying be conscious of all your moves. Because your moves reflect on me.
Be angry, but do not sin.
Right.
Anger is not a sin. Anger is a human emotion. What comes from it is what is the sin. Right? And so, and that's why I think that's why he's telling you, man, it's deeper than just I keep the law on the outside. It's who I'm a changed person. I'm a different person. I'm more like Jesus, more like the image of God rather than all the human violence that we see in the world. I mean, that's easy.
I think what you're describing is what I learned years ago as a kid, as agape love.
Agape love, right. It's definitely not brotherly love.
7 forms of love.
I only have 3. I only got 3.
Yeah, really?
Familial, erotic, and agape.
Fraternal?
Well, that's like familiar, brother, sister, my brother, like Philadelphia, yeah.
You're right there. Erotic love?
Lust,
Lust is not love.
right, no. That's what.
Anyway.
Anyway, thank you, Bob, for going down that road. You got me going down that road. Thanks for steering me there.
The Greeks have
Yes.
seven.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 3. All right, well, at Harbor Free Methodist, we were missing 4. All right. Look at this last part again. This goes back to what you all were saying, the things. And then you said something like mercy. And we said, hold the thought about love. The question is, in what ways have you seen God be merciful to you? That's a great thing to think about, right?
Yeah.
It's a great thing to just contemplate and have some gratitude going on. But he goes back to he's really pushing this idea that he talks about Jesus on the cross in Luke. And what are Jesus' words? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, that's probably true a lot of times, right? We just don't, but it's not that we don't know what we're doing when we do this, but we don't know what we're doing in the whole big picture of things. It's not just that instant when we do harm to somebody, but there's reverb, it springs out. It's like a rock in the pond. It has ripples. It plays out, right? And so that's the stuff that I think. Have you, from another person, have you ever been on the giving or receiving end of undeserved mercy from someone else? Right? I have. I get something every day from her like that. I don't deserve it. What effect did that gift have on everyone involved? I wonder let me ask you this. Do you think it feels that the impact is bigger on the enemy or on you when we do it God's way? I wonder.
Well, you hope it is the enemy, but.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah,
It's
It's
very much a two-way street.
right. Anyway,
You do your part, you need to let it run.
yeah, that's right. Then that other person needs to respond to what God is doing for them too, right? Because I don't think that God is not trying to get them to be right. That's the other thing too. I think that God is at work in that child that I was describing a while ago, trying to get in there somewhere.
She's a child of God.
She's a child of God. Now you changed my whole, I didn't want to say that. Okay, now I've got to. But I do, but when you become aware of something, right, then you're responsible, right? And so if we're talking about this, I've been seeing these words on there about the image of God on the screen and all this stuff. But seeing it up here and saying it is, I don't, you said, and Vicky used the word awareness though, but like in the middle of that thing, when I'm just starting to get so frustrated and irritated, to stay centered and say like, okay, Roger, image of God. And I'm thinking, oh my Lord, sorry for you, God. Now, you know what I mean? But the thing is that image of God, you don't get to argue with that.
I've had circumstances when I worked at the nursing home. And we've had many, many difficult residents.
Right.
And we were told, if you can't go in, you stand at the door and you count to 10.
Right.
And if you don't think you can walk in, you stand there and count to 100 and then go in.
Or not, I guess, get somebody else maybe.
Well, yeah, that
Can, yeah,
but it makes you, in my perspective, it makes you more conscious of how you would want to be treated if you were in that situation.
and
Because when we used to have the girls from the high schools come over and we would, do things with them on the floor and whatever. And I used to tell them, I said, you think when you walk through that door, you think about, that could be your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your husband, your child laying there. How would you want them to be treated?
right. So let's take that a little bit then, and then we'll close with that, because we're at the time. So I had Dusty Stop, heard him say this one time. Don't treat people as you want to be treated. Treat people as they want to be treated. And in a sense, like his thing was treat them as they need to be treated.
Yeah.
Like, so if you got somebody that's just acting like that, I think this goes back to love and empathy. If we want to change people, we have to change ourselves. And so when you're talking about going to 100, it's like, okay, that might keep me from saying something wrong because I'm feeling heated and it makes me more aware of myself, and treating them more appropriately, right? Being in a more professional way that you should have in that position, that kind of stuff. But that doesn't make me see them as a child of God. That is an intentional choice to say to yourself, that person is created in the image of God. And you have, and saying it is, I do not think is the same thing as you believe it. It's not a magic phrase. It's a helpful phrase, maybe, but it's not a magic phrase. And so even as I was sitting there thinking about how do I get, this is for me to mull on and figure out. If I really believe that that person is a child of God sitting there in that chair, or that chair, or that chair, or whatever, or in, how would I treat them different? If I said not child, but in the image of God, how would I really be different? How would I really act differently?
Hey, Roger,
Yes.
I just want to say that Mercy rewrote my name.
That's a song.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Well said. Well sung. Well sung. All right, last part. This is our homework. We're gonna memorize this verse. He asks his congregation to memorize this verse. Ephesians 4:29. Don't let any foul words come out of your mouth. And when he's talking about foul words, it's not profanity. He's talking about like hate speech, whatever, that kind of stuff. Only say what is helpful when it is needed for building up the community so that it benefits those who hear what you say. Right? And that does, and it doesn't matter. And I think about it now, we are, me and my teammates at the school, we're good about doing that in front of the kids. But you know what? But even I know this, and we talk about it. The more you talk about a kid, like among the adults, in a certain way, the more it feeds it. The more it feeds it, the more you like, the more you just, even if that's just describing their behavior and it is poor behavior, or whatever, the more you talk about it, the more ingrained it is. And then so now, do you really give that kid a chance to change, or will you always see them that way? You pigeonhole, you know what I'm saying? It's tough. It's hard. I know somebody that pigeonholed me when I was a kid, when I was in high school, and that was Nancy Webb. And she had a right to, because I was a hideous, I was that girl in a lot of ways. So you going to memorize this, Carolyn? We're going to have a stand.
I'll
Go ahead.
try.
You got to memorize Ephesians 4:29.
Okay.
You got to memorize it in any translation you want, okay? As long as we can understand it. Mitzi, you going to memorize it? You have to recite it next week.
No, I ain't gonna.
Okay, if you don't have to recite it, will you memorize it? No, I'm just kidding. All right.
I'll remember what it means.
Okay, you can paraphrase.
All right, I can do that.
You paraphrase it. Okay.
I know I'm being very, stupid. That's what I want to use the word. I always figured these kids that you're talking about come from broken homes, from one family, one parent home.
No, they don't have to do that.
But it doesn't have to be that way,
No.
because just listening to you, knowing your mother and father, I don't know,
Right.
ever know them well, but to the impression I got the one time I met them,
Yeah.
you must have been one hell of a kid to raise.
No, no,
Yes, yes, yes.
no, I wasn't. I was afraid to do anything wrong. But when I got in school, when I was in class with teachers, oh no, I see me every day in class. And I just laugh at them now. I can say like, now I know.
What made you?
But one lady I went to war with, and she deserved it.
What made you do it then? And be
I like to argue. I like to talk. I like to have my way. I want to do what I want to do. Well, I don't know what else you got to do. Yeah, exactly. And I just, yeah,
Did your father ever turn you over his knee and whip you?
I'm sure he did. Last time I remember getting a belt whipping, I was probably in the 5th grade, 4th grade. That was it. Yeah,
And
that was it. No,
And
man,
it didn't do anything?
whippings do not do it. They make their temporary solutions.
You laugh.
I'm not sure.
My brother and I would laugh, and he just got tired of that.
And boy, I didn't fear my father.
Right,
would lay
but we
my
didn't have a razor strap either. It was just a belt. Now, razor strap in a bad way with a mean person would be rough.
That's what they had.
But the dad wasn't a mean guy. He wasn't mean. That wasn't something he enjoyed, I don't think. Yeah,
I just want to share, the verse 29 in Ephesians, out of the Message.
right?
He says, watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth. Say only what helps, each word a gift.
Each word a gift. That's a good thing. I like that a lot.
I like it.
Did you hear that out of the Living Translation, Mitzi?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, sounds pretty close to my paraphrase.
I thought it was your paraphrase. I was going to quote you. Each word a gift. All right. All right, so hey, let's close it up. It's not as Moses taught us, do not kill, but it's deeper than that, according to our Lord, right? And so don't harm others, don't return insult for insult. We talk about turn the other cheek, right? And all those things. It's not easy. Forgive others, love your enemies. And so that's what he says in this there. That way you can find a good and beautiful life. And I would say this too, that's what it means maybe to be salt. That's what it means to be light. If we're talking about Matthew and Sermon on the Mount and all that stuff. Salt and light, that's the kind of person that does that. A city on a hill can't be hid. All right. Well, any other comments you all have here, Mitzi or Carolyn?
Why do the 10 Commandments bother me more than anything else we've studied?
These do? You say they do, or?
Yeah, this section we've been studying.
Well, this one has made me think about, like, I can take this and apply it. I mean, I could clean up some stuff with this one.
I don't know, the discussions keep getting emotional.
Do what?
The discussions keep getting emotional.
Oh, right. Yeah. Anything else out here? All right. Well, Cindy, would you close us?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege of being in your house and for trying to learn your word more deeply than we can apply it to our lives. And help us to understand how you have to understand that we be a lot for you. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. All right. All right, you all. I'm gonna start the share here. I'm glad we figured out the sound for the video.
Oh, way back there.
I know what to do now. If you hadn't said anything, Carolyn, I would have still forgot to go back and click that thing. So thank you for
Okay.
telling me.
Sure.
All right, y'all have a good night.
You too.
Don't kill anybody. All right. Leave Jim alone. Okay, see ya. Bye, Mitzi.